Welcome back to the Jefferson Exchange. I'm Charlie Zimmerman. Here's Josh Gross and Jeffrey Riley with this month's Rogue Sounds.
Josh, happy almost September, and welcome back to the Jefferson Exchange.
I'm glad to be welcomed back, Jeffrey.
September, a bit of a transition season, not just in the weather, but also in the music business, it appears. I mean, it's like the end of the outdoor concert season for most outdoor concerts.
Well, outdoor concerts are better in the summer than in the winter, by most people's estimation, But, it's, as things start to get into fall, you lose a little bit of the big festival stuff, but it's an opportunity to see some of the, smaller club acts that, may have been overshadowed by festival season. So, I think it's a great transition to be transitioning into. So, I think there's some cool stuff coming up in fall, could be really interesting.
One of the things we have coming in is, and let's not give it away right away in case people haven't heard of Dogstar, but Dogstar is coming to Brit on September 7th, so that's our first band we'll be talking about. This cut is called Everything Turns Around. Roll it. I had to remind myself, Josh, that Dogstar actually has a fairly famous person in it who is not famous for music. What's the story on this band?
Yeah, so most bands kind of, if they get derailed because someone has a kid or something. But this one kind of got derailed because their bass player happens to be one of the biggest movie stars in the world, and that's Keanu Reeves. John Wick himself. And, the band was kind of taken off right as his movie career was taken off, and the smart money was on him doing the things that he did, and they kind of had to put it aside for a while. But, and there's a long tradition of, movie stars playing a musician, and most of it's pretty bad. I mean, we all remember, or try not to remember, Bruce Willis's album. But, Keanu Reeves, in typical understated fashion, he's playing background in the bass, and he's just being a part of the band. And it was a pretty good band. They really had a great sort of storytelling, songwriting style. They kind of saw themselves as like a 70s band that was more, just of the night. They were a 90s band, but they were more of the 70s. To me, it sounds like they sound oftentimes like the band Big Star could have matured into if they'd, lasted much longer. But they've got some really interesting tunes, some great melodies, some just great straight ahead rock grooves. And, if you want to see Bill and what it was like if Bill and Ted had actually made it, Dogstar's your chance,
Oh, that's right. What was the name of the band? Wild Stallions was the name of the band.
Wild Stallions.
Saved the universe in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure movies.
Yes.
So that is not Keanu Reeves on lead vocals then?
No, he's a bass player.
Huh. That's impressive that Keanu Reeves is willing to stand in the background for a while between, appearances as John Wick on the movie screen. That is Dogstar coming to Brit on September 7th, Saturday. Josh Gross with us once again for another edition of Rogue Sounds here on the Jefferson Exchange. We move on to September 14th. This is we're talking about Jimmy's Chicken Shack coming to the Rogue Theater in Grants Pass. And I understand Jimmy's Chicken Shack is actually not the top of this bill.
No, they're not. The top of the bill is Marcy Playground, who had a big hit with Sex and Candy. But I think Jimmy's Chicken Shack is a really interesting group that, again, continuing the theme of sort of 90s bands that didn't really get their due. They were really like a great sort of band kind of the grunge movement, but they just kind of came at the tail end of it. So they kind of as it was going out of fashion, but they did some really interesting stuff that a lot of the other groups at the time weren't doing. They had a really interesting sense of humor. They mixed in elements of funk that would really become bigger staples of rock and jam in the group music scene as it went along. And they had some really cool tunes, and they're kind of out doing their 30th anniversary tour right now. And I just think they were a really interesting group that could move back and forth between sort of really heavy, really melodic, and really sort of groovy, dancey stuff at a time when no one was really doing that. And, just happened to do it right at the time that sort of stuff, that the movement they were a part of was kind of going out of favor. So, I think that they're really interesting. But, if you go see them, you also get to see the Marcy Playground. So it's a winning proposition on two fronts.
It is a good double bill. So let's hear from Jimmy's Chicken Shack. This is called Second Slip. Let's roll it.
Test the limits once again. Don't let up until the end. Please stay with me. Don't fall behind.
Josh, you mentioned a bit of a grunge influence here and a change in the genre as they got relatively popular. I'm reminded that Pearl Jam is apparently about to release another album, so there's a bit of a grunge revival coming or something.
I mean, everything comes in cycles, you know, it's like sort of 25-year cycles as sort of things like go out of fashion and then are rediscovered by new generations. And we're in the generation right now where they're sort of rediscovering a lot of the 90s culture. You know, Jinko jeans are back. Saw someone on rollerblades the other day, you know, and you know, top the charts, a lot of the bands that are getting discovered right now are like grunge and new metal acts, and a lot of, you know, I mean, Limp Bizkit's on a headlining tour right now. That shouldn't have happened in the 90s, and yet it's happening now. But it's like, it's just the time for that sort of stuff to cycle back, and a lot of these groups are either taking big victory laps like Pearl Jam, or they're getting, you know, the chance at sort of being rediscovered, you know, that they sort of may have missed out on before, or, you know, like Jimmy's Chicken Shack. So, I mean, these guys were great. They had just like really great, solid riffs, you know, and a good, fun, cheeky sense of humor. I mean, you don't name your band Jimmy's Chicken Shack if you're, you know, trying to be too serious about it.
That's
so, like,
true. Shack and chicken in the same sentence, probably not a great thing for a band. Yeah. Josh Gross is back with us on the Jefferson Exchange for another edition of Rogue Sounds as Jimmy's Chicken Shack opening for Marcy Playground at the Rogue Theater in Grants Pass on Saturday, September 14th. We move down to a band called Summer Colds coming to Johnny B's in Medford on September 20th. Here's their song. This is called Killing Flies.
I just wanna hide from the sun when I stay inside. I don't have any fun when I stay out late. I can barely breathe now when I get back home. I just really wanna leave until you say
Yeah, I have to say, even though I've never actually set foot inside Johnny B's in Medford, that the bands that you bring to us at Rogue Sounds who play Johnny B's, they don't have the edges sanded off. There's some good hard stuff that comes rocking in that place.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to have a place that's willing to, like, let people experiment and color outside the lines, because that's where you get the really interesting stuff. Otherwise, everything just stays really formulaic. And I don't think these guys really are that hard-edged, to be honest, because their stuff is pure pop. Mm-hmm. Really, really clean melodies, really clean harmonies, magnificent production, and some of the cleverest songwriting around. This is a local group. They have not played live for about 4 or 5 years. It's going to be their first show in 4 or 5 years. I think they did one. Like many groups, they had to take, 2020 and 2021 off, for reasons we don't like to discuss.
Right.
They played one sort of outdoor thing kind of during the tail end of COVID, and hadn't played the 2 years before that. And they haven't played a single show since, because they were working on a new album, which they've got in the can. I've heard an advanced copy of it. It's magnificent. I'm hoping that they're going to put it out soon so everyone can hear. But it's this will be the first time they're debuting any of this new material and a new lineup to go along with it. And it's just, these guys are great, and it's an opportunity to see someone who just has not, they've got a really large following online. I think a lot of it's even international, but they just don't play live very often. And so, there's a great opportunity to see
All right, Summer Colds,
really stellar group.
September 20th at Johnny B's in Medford. Here's another. You talked about you don't put chicken or Chicken Shack in your name if you're not serious about your music. Summer Colds can also be repellent, I'm sure, to some people.
Well, I think it's actually a really interesting name, because I've occasionally referred to them as Bummer Weezer, where they have that same sort of real magnificent command of the sort of power pop genre, but really has kind of his songwriting style explores a lot of sort of melancholy. Mm-hmm. And I think that Summer Colds is a perfect metaphor for it, when it's just hey, summer is supposed to be great, but also I'm kind of sick. It's what do you do when you're I'm doing something really that has this buoyant energy, but also exploring the sort of using it to look into the melancholy and the abyss. I think that's a really interesting juxtaposition, and it comes together really well in the music that they do, where they have these really soaring melodies and these fantastic harmonies that just make you want to punch air with glee, and yet at the same time he's talking about some real stuff.
Punching air with glee since what year? When did we start doing the Rogue Sounds?
I don't know. We're year 9 at this point, Jeffrey. We've been doing this for a while.
Wow, that is a lot. Yeah. So punching air with glee. I'm writing this down. I want to make sure we keep using this. So that's Summer Colds coming to Johnny B's in Medford on September 20th. Josh Gross with us with another edition of Rogue Sounds here on the Jefferson Exchange. September 21st at the Dip in Reading, we have a Collective Subconscious coming to play. This is called Morla. It's an instrumental. Roll it. I've often wondered when the band is primarily instrumental, what do crowds do when they don't have lyrics to like shout back at the band and stuff like that?
That is an excellent question, Jeffrey. You're going to have to go to the show to find out.
There you go again, trying to get me to get out and listen to music.
You know, it is a really interesting question. You know, I was watching a group the other night, an instrumental group, and a friend of mine, and we both agreed. We're like, you know, they need a singer, or they need something because if you don't have a singer, you got to have something that fills the role of that space. Like, what is the thing that people are paying attention to? And, you know, since most people speak, they can identify with the singer more than, you know, they can identify with the guitarist because not everyone plays guitar, something to that effect. And, you know, instrumental bands have a real challenge there in that they have to do something that sort of fills that space because, you know, they're still trying to write about something. I remember the first time I talked to an instrumental band and they're like, oh, this song is about this. And I was like, what? It's about something? How is that? Mm-hmm. And it's really more the idea of expressionism in painting. You're trying to get across an idea through sort of textures and patterns and sort of like the sound and the feel and the vibe and the thing that you're trying to express, but not necessarily through words. So the question is, what do? What are you paying attention to? You're paying attention to the narrative, to the picture that they're painting with the sound. Maybe it's a shredding lead. Maybe it's just a texture. Maybe it's just sort of like soaking in the vibe. I don't know. Everyone kind of reacts to it a little bit differently. Not everyone's into expressionism. It's certainly a harder sell. Mm-hmm. But I think if you listen to it, it's, I mean, for a long time, the reigning form of, you know, dominant pop music was classical, and it doesn't have words. Everyone was fine with that.
True.
So, you know, what did they do with their hands? I don't know. What did they do? Shout at Beethoven? Play Freebird! You know, what are you going to do?
Oh, I would like to see that just once in my life. So that's September 21st.
Mozart would have done it.
Yeah, a collective subconscious at the Dip in Reading. In our last 2 minutes, we'll get to Gable Price and friends also coming to the Dip in Reading, and this will be on September 26th. This is called Newspaper Boat. Roll it.
It seems like everybody's crying, but nobody's really trying to forgive. There's a full-grown man in his boyhood clothes. Every crisis of life, every fork of the road. Is everybody dying, or is anyone just dying to live?
Gotta love when a band asks a question and you have to go, oh, wow. What is the answer?
Yeah, right. What is the answer? You know, it's, I'm into that. I'm into good songwriting. These guys write good songs, and they have just a good presentation. You can tell there's a lot going on in there. They are actually a Reading local band, and they've been out on a big national tour, like dozens and dozens of dates up into, I think, even up into Canada. They're kind of returning home from that. So this is kind of a victory lap for them. And just I like what they're doing. They're doing some cool stuff to really got a good sound. And, you know, ask some real questions, which, you know, I feel like good songwriting should be good writing.
Yeah, absolutely. So of the 5 bands that you deliver every month on Rogue Sounds, how many end up on the cutting room floor?
What how many do I not pick? I don't know, man. The rest.
It's like 30, 40. I mean, across the region, it's huge as it is. You know, that's a lot of bands.
Yeah, I mean, there's however many clubs multiplied by however many nights a week they have stuff going on. I mean, like I generally try to look at everywhere that I know of or that I'm aware of, and I track down everything that I can. But I mean, you're probably leaving a couple dozen in minimum. You know. Wow.
Let me go through the list again really quick. September 7th, Dog Star at Brit. September 14th, Jimmy's Chicken Shack at Rogue Theater with Marcy Playground. September 20th, Summer Colds at Johnny B's in Medford. September 21st, Collective Subconscious at the Dip in Reading. September 26th, Gable Price and Friends at the Dip in Reading. The whole list at our website, jeffexchange.org. Josh Gross, thanks for another edition of Rogue Sounds.
Yeah, always glad to be here, Jeffrey.
That's it for today's exchange. jeffexchange.org is our website where you can find these conversations and more, or you can subscribe to our shows wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Charlie Zimmerman. Andrew Crackle is engineering our show today. Our theme music is composed by Maxwell and Terry Longshore. Our new senior producer is Natalie Golay. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.